under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Jeremiah Sensley, here. Corey Jones.
Here.
Keith Neff.
Here.
Thomas Doherty.
Here.
All right, and others present. John Phillips, Chief of Wyomissing Police Department.
Yes.
Michelle Bear, Borough Manager.
Yes.
And Daniel Becker, Esquire.
Here.
Okay, and others present.
Lieutenant Mel Becker.
Can you spell that, please?
Yeah, Fegely from the Reading Police Department.
Thank you.
What was the first name again?
Mel, M-E-L.
Resident.
Adrian Jadick, 48 Cardinal Road, just for purpose of
Okay.
videotaping.
And
Ellen Davenport report.
okay. All right. Turn it over to Daniel. Public hearing.
All right, so let me explain what's happening here today. So what is going on, this hearing, this is going to be a local agency hearing that we'll be conducting in light of an active request of Mr. McCall, who is a candidate for a position with the Wyomissing Police Department. He went through the testing process and did not meet the standards for the run. And he failed those the timing requirements. As a result, and under the rules and regs of the Wyomissing Police Department Civil Service Commission, he had the right to file an appeal to that particular failure of that test. So that's what brings us here today. What I'm going to do now is explain how this local agency hearing will work, and then what we'll do is we'll proceed with the hearing. So, Mr. McCall, for your purposes, what we will do is you'll be sworn in here in a moment, but it's your burden, since you've requested this hearing, and this is under Pennsylvania law and the rules of the Wyomissing Civil Service Commission, it's your burden to explain why you should be granted relief that you may be requesting as a result of your request to reconsider the failure of the time for the run. You can do that by presenting evidence through testimony of other witnesses, yourself, and or any type of exhibits that you may want to present to the Civil Service Commission.
Okay.
After you present all of your testimony and exhibits, the board members and I will have the opportunity to ask you questions. After all of your testimony has been presented, the chief can also present evidence as to what happened with the testing, and I believe that he has Lieutenant Fegley here with him, who is present at the testing and maybe ran the testing. We'll find out more about that as we proceed with the hearing. That will explain, the results of that testing and to potentially counter any information that you may be bringing in or support that information that you may be bringing in. Do you understand the process that we're going to follow today?
I know.
You do not understand the process.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked if I had any questions.
No,
Yes,
you
I
understand.
understand.
You understand the process. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. So at this time, what I'd like to do is we'll turn it over to you to provide the opportunity to present your evidence, but I'd like to have you sworn first. So if you can raise your right hand, and we'll have the stenographer swear you in.
Mr. McCall, kindly state your full name and spell your last name for me, please.
Brandon McCall, spelling of my last name is M-C-C-A-L-L.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I did not mention this to you, Mr. McCall, but I want to make sure it's really clear under our rules and regulations. This hearing will be stenographically transcribed, and that was the stenographer who is here taking down the entire transcript from the hearing so that we have a record of this. She's the one who swore you in. All right, so at this point, Mr. McCall, I will turn the hearing over to you, and you can start by providing your statement and or request to the Civil Service Commission for consideration.
Okay. I failed the mile and a half. I'm going to start off with throughout the entire mile and a half, I had extreme severe cramping in both legs. I did run the entire mile and a half in extreme pain, and I know for you guys it doesn't seem like much because I failed, but for me that was a big testimony to fight through that for the mile and a half and miss it by 3 seconds. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I grew up as a star athlete. I played football. I played college football. I went through the academy, and graduated, I was awarded the top fitness candidate there. And now I've been an officer for 4 years, and throughout my career, I've become stronger and faster, and fitness has always been my motto as far as being an officer, because I believe it goes hand in hand as far as, you know, stress we deal with, the mental burdens that we have. I feel like every officer should have, you know, fitness in their regimen throughout their career. This test was not a reflection of what I'm capable of or my performance. I stay within the criteria of this test throughout my career on a day-to-day basis, just because I believe in fitness that much. Like I said, throughout the run, the mile and a half, I, from start to finish, was cramping. I managed to fight the pain, and if you were there, you witnessed, I was running as if I had stick legs. I understood that I would have to bounce pretty much from toe to toe and swing my legs out just because I couldn't bend my knees. And it was very, very, very painful, but I managed to finish. And like I said, I did miss it by 3 seconds, but that isn't a reflection of me and what I can do as far as the test goes. So this appeal is more so for me to, you know, voice to you guys how the race went or how the run went, and hopefully get another chance at it or see what can be done from there.
Okay, so do you have any further evidence or testimony that you'd like to present?
No.
All right, let me see if the board members or the chief have any questions for you. Anybody have any questions?
Do you have a reason for it? Like, do you know why that happened, or has it happened again, or prior to that incident?
The cramping, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. The 300-meter sprint, I've trained for this test. I knew my limits as far as the test goes. But when it came to the 300-meter sprint, you know, I have 50 other people that, you know, want the position I'm in or want to be the one to get hired. And with that, I sprinted it and gave it, instead of running it how I knew I should have ran it, I did give it 100%. And I ran about 200 meters of it, you know, very fast. I am pretty fast, and at the speed I was going, it's not normal to be able to run a 300-meter sprint that fast unless you're, you know, a track athlete or a professional athlete. But I tried to maintain that speed, and by the time I hit the last 100 meters of it, I couldn't feel my legs, and that's kind of when I knew that, you know, I probably overdone it. I still finished that with a good time and passed that test, but as you see, when it came to the mile and a half, that is when the cramping came.
Thank you. Getting old's rough.
Doesn't look like it.
Any other questions for Mr. McCall?
Mr. McCall, did you at any time inform the individuals running the test that you were cramping?
Well, I wasn't cramping until I started that mile and a half, and I think it was very obvious by the way I was running that I was not okay. So I couldn't voice that until if I wanted to walk off and to the side and tell them, but I didn't want to stop running just because at that point I figured I may still have a chance as long as I can bounce from toe to toe fast enough. But obviously that did not happen.
Understood. Was there anyone standing near the track that you could have told while you were on the track?
There were, like I said, there were multiple times that I could have stopped if I wanted to stop and told anyone, but like I said, I thought I could finish it and wanted to not stop because I was already going to be close on time.
Understood. Thank you.
I just want to, I have two questions for you. It's the Chief of Police, Mr. McCall. You are a male, is that not correct?
Yes.
And you are today and on the date of the test 28 years of age, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Does anybody else have any further questions? Mr. McCall, do you have any further testimony that you would like to present to the Civil Service Commission?
No.
Okay, so then you rest at this moment, I take it. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So at this point in time, what I'll do is I'll turn it over to the chief. Chief, do you want to explain to us the testing process and present your evidence and testimony? So yeah, why don't we swear in both the chief and the Lieutenant Fagan. Thank you.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
And Mr. McCall, just because you didn't see that, they both raised their right hand and they actually both said that they will tell the truth. So go ahead.
The Wyomissing Police Department is currently in the process of testing for the position of police officer. On March 2nd, we held both the written test and then the physical agility test. The physical agility test began at 1 p.m. It was held over at the Plex, the indoor facility for Alberta University. I utilized the members of the Reading Police Department's Academy staff to run the test because this test is the Cooper test, and MOPEC, the Municipal Police Officer Education Training Commission, puts out the requirements for the passing of this test. And what I'd like to do is, I'd like to bring in Lieutenant Fagley at this point. I'm going to hand Lieutenant Fagley a document, and I'm going to ask Lieutenant Fagley to tell the commission what that document is.
Okay, so let's just, before we do that, let's mark that as exhibit Borough Exhibit number 1. And I want to make sure that we'll have Lieutenant Fagley explain what it is, but then we'll also want to make sure that we can get him a copy of it so he has that as well. But we'll explain what that is as well. So Alan, if you can just mark that for us.
You mean Mr. McCall?
I'm sorry, Mr. McCall, yes.
Did you say borough one?
Yeah, let's mark it Borough Exhibit 1. And you know what we can do here, just, this is kind of a little bit awkward, because we can't put documents up, is that correct?
I can't now, no,
All
I'm
right.
not connected to my
So let me
desktop.
do this, let's, just so Mr. McCall has this, let me make Mr. McCall, do you have a telephone that I can send you a text to?
Yes.
All right, let me just make I'll do a quick scan of this, if the technology works easily.
You can actually scan it, like an actual scan.
Yeah,
rather
I
than a
actually have a
picture.
scanner.
Gotcha. So you're taking a picture. Gotcha.
No, this is a scanner. So. And there's a second page. Is that right?
Yep.
Hmm?
Okay, Mr. McCall, would you please, and this doesn't have to go on the record, his phone number doesn't have to go on the record, but would you please give us your phone number so I can send this to you?
330
330
234
234
4231.
4231.
Yeah, 330-234-4231.
All right. You should be getting it momentarily. If you can just check, and you can see what the document is that has been presented.
I have it.
Okay. And what that is generally, it looks like there's MOPEC standards. Is that what that is, Chief?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go through and provide testimony. You can follow along that now that you have those documents. So please proceed, Chief.
So Lieutenant Fagley, can you, and looking at that, can you tell me what that document is?
This is the chart that MOPEC puts out that outlines the physical fitness standards for both males and females, and it has it in columns of their age brackets. So 18 to 29 is one set of standards for male and a different for female. And then 30 to 39 are different standards for male and female, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, and then the final is 60 and over. This is the chart that outlines it. They got this from the Cooper Institute. They got this number saying from whatever research that Cooper Institute does, they push it out. It's what we call the 30th percentile. So it's supposed to replicate if 100% of the people in this age and gender bracket took the test, 30th percentile means only about 30% would fail at these standards. So when we say 30th percentile, that's what they're putting out. But what you have given me here is that chart outlining all the events for that gender, age at the 30th percentile.
Okay, so can you tell me what the 4 events are, or tell the commission?
So the 4 events are, and they must be done in this order. Sit-ups, 1 minute, they have to do 35, for an 18 to 29-year-old male, they have to do 35 sit-ups in 1 minute. The second event is a 300-meter run. An 18 to 29-year-old male will need to do it in 62.1 seconds. The third event is push-ups for 1 minute. They need to do 26. And the final event is the 1.5 mile run. A male between the ages of 18 and 29 would need to run it in 13 minutes and 16 seconds.
And when this test is conducted, are there not standards that have to be met as far as time, as far as in between the events?
So, yes. So the whole test must take within 2 hours. And each candidate must have at least 5-minute rest between each event. It has to be in that order, successively, sit-ups, 300, push-ups, 1.5 miles, and they must have at least 5 minutes in between. But on this day, we tested close to 50 candidates. We didn't start the clock between events until the last person was done. We started the 5-minute clock before starting the first group in the next event. So most likely, each candidate got about 15, maybe even 20 minutes rest in between. But we won't even start the second event until that 5 minutes is elapsed from the last person to the first person.
And I mentioned that you were from the Reading Police Academy. The Reading Police Academy is certified through MOPEC to administer these tests, correct?
That's correct. So all of my PT instructors have to go to a physical fitness instructor school. They get certified. MOPEC approves that certification, and then they have to maintain the certification. So they're essentially personal trainers that MOPEC approves that certification as a physical trainer. They can now instruct and give PT tests, and it would be considered certified by MOPEC.
And all of the people that you had there that day running this PT event for us, they are certified through MOPEC, as you said?
Yes, sir, they are.
And did anything occur on that day that would have prevented the test from being administered as it was supposed to have been?
No.
You said that they got maybe extra time.
They definitely got more than 5 minutes between each event. We even had EMS on standby there just in case for a medical emergency. But this test was very typical. We do probably 5 to 10 a year for our own department, for our own academy, for other departments. We run it the same way every time. That test on that day was no different than any other test.
And these standards that you mentioned, they're not standards that we made up or the Reading Police Academy made up. These were from the Cooper, which you stated, and it's what MOPEC has certified as the PT.
Correct. The standards you have here are right off the MOPEC website. They use the Cooper Institute for their research for these 4 events. What would fail 30%? That's where MOPEC got their numbers from. They are using the Cooper Institute to support their physical fitness data. MOPEC tells us this is what you're going to administer and this is what you're passing and failing on.
I have nothing further than that.
Mr. McCall, do you have any questions for the Lieutenant Fagan?
No.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions for Lieutenant Fagan? I do. A couple of questions. Lieutenant Fagan, so I want to make sure that I understand it for the record. So what's the significance of the MOPEC standards? What do they establish?
Because being a police officer, it's inherent that we will be physically active in our job. We are chasing after people, you're struggling with people, so they wanted to have a minimum standard of some type of physical ability, physical fitness ability. And so they put that forward, understanding police departments need to have some type of physical standard in their hiring process. So MOPEC puts it out because they are a training commission, understanding departments are going to use their data. They had decided if you're going to partake in a police training environment where physical fitness is expected, these are the standards you need to pass in order to get into that training program.
Okay, so these are the minimum standards to pass to get to the next level of the testing process when you're looking to be hired as a police officer.
Correct. So even if he wanted to come through on his personal, his own side, no one's getting into the academy per MOPEC if they cannot pass at the 30th percentile.
Okay. And in this particular instance, where I think Mr. McCall's testimony was that he missed it by 3 seconds, is this a flexible standard or is it a strict liability standard?
It is strict. They have given us guidelines that they want. These are the numbers. There's no flex, and there's certain parameters. The whole test must take place within 2 hours, 5 minutes in between each, and then even the directions on how to accomplish the sit-up and push-ups. Like they give us certain things to look for, what to grade on. The mile and a half is pretty simple.
So you miss by 1 push-up, you fail and you don't
fail.
move on.
Correct.
And the same thing is true for the testing for the run.
For all the events, yes, sir.
In this particular instance, did Mr. McCall ever come to you or any of your colleagues that you're aware of to say that he was unable to run it for some physical reason?
He did not come to me, and to my knowledge, he did not approach any of my other, the cadre.
All right. Mr. McCall, in light of my questions, do you have any further questions for Lieutenant Fegley?
No.
Board members, do you have any other questions for the Lieutenant?
I guess mine would be, to your knowledge, have you ever known there to be exceptions made for circumstances that may have been out of the control of the candidates?
In all the times that I have given this test, both for Reading and for the Academy, we've given no exceptions whatsoever.
Well, the request is for a retest, right?
I believe, so one of the things I guess we should get clarified, because I think that's a good question, both of those questions, but Mr. McCall, I just want to make sure it's clear, what you're asking for is a retest or just reconsideration on the 3 seconds that's close enough?
Either or. Like I said, this test I did prepare for and I trained for it, but this is the shape I'm in year round, so if I had to retest it, I wouldn't be upset to retest. I'm sure I'd pass it. So either way, I would not be upset.
Okay, so you're asking for either, so he's asking for.
Because the vote on here says.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, that's not necessarily the way it would run, that was the anticipated, what was being requested. In light of the testimony, it's a very fluid situation. He's asking for either consideration that 3 seconds is insignificant and therefore should be considered passed, or that he would have the opportunity to be retested. So maybe back to the question to Lieutenant Fegley, have you ever seen anybody being granted the 3 second exception as being close enough?
We have never granted any exception for any event whatsoever.
Have you ever seen anybody that has made a request to be retested to allow them to retest?
The only situation that happened with us with Reading Military, or Reading the police department, is if someone was away on some type of military, we Reading PD always offers a second test, and then of course we hire pretty often. So every 6 months we are hosting tests. So if someone missed it due to extenuating circumstances, military being one of them, we would just say come at a later date and test now. But we would not give a special exemption.
And when you do, if there was, just for clarification, if you were to grant retesting, it's not just the run, it would be the entire package all over.
It has to be the entire package altogether. And to be fair, that's a department decision whether to offer a retest or not.
Right.
We would just administer the test, and this standard, this is inflexible. This is the standard per MOPEC. And
right.
so,
and we understand, that's why we're here. This is Civil Service Commission, just for the board.
Right.
That's your decision to decide which way this goes. I have no idea where you're going to go at the moment, but that's why we're providing this testimony, this information, both from Mr. McCall and from the Chief Lieutenant.
Do we have the authority to even give an exemption for the 3 seconds?
You always have the ability to look at things to determine whether there was any irregularities or anything that you believe would be a basis to permit that retesting to occur.
Okay.
And you have that ability to make that determination. That's why we're here. That's why they have the local agency here.
I guess I'm going to defer back to the chief to get his inclination.
So okay, so we can, if you're what you're looking for then is you're looking for a recommendation from the chief, is that correct?
Is that, I'm sorry,
Yes, and I would also like to know, like, the Reading Police Department holds these every 6 months. Do we only hold them when we have a vacancy for an officer?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no telling
It could
when,
be years.
okay.
Well, let me ask this question. To the extent that Mr. McCall wanted to apply again, he could do that and just go through this testing again whenever there would be another round of testing that would occur.
Yes,
And this testing would not be held against him in any way.
correct.
And let me also just make sure that I'm clear. Part of the reason why, and Mr. McCall, I'm not sure if you're aware, part of the reason why we wanted to move this so quickly is we're in the middle of that process of going to the next steps in the testing process. Is that correct, Chief?
We're in the process of doing interviews right now. Everybody that passed the PT test that day signed up for their interviews. It started yesterday, and they go till Tuesday of next week.
So to the extent that the board, and again, this is just for clarification, to the extent that you would be agreeing to issue or grant the additional testing, that would have to happen very quickly. Because we're in that process and we can't delay that, we don't want to delay that process.
And if you retest it, it might be a different discussion, but if you retest it for one, you would be opening yourself up to retest.
I'm sorry, I can't really hear you.
I'm sorry, if you retest it for one, you would be opening up yourself to anybody who had an issue could then determine I want to retest again, and you'd be retesting everybody potentially all year, or you'd have to pick and choose, no, yes, no, yes. And then what would be the standard to pick and choose? That would be a hard problem, like this person didn't qualify for the push-ups, missed it by 2, retest, but somebody missed it by 4, no retest, it would really kind of muddy up the whole testing.
That would not be something that I would make any kind of determination to. Anybody that asks for a retest, that would have to come before the commission as this is today. So, you know,
So essentially, you guys,
you
four
make
of
that
you
determination.
will be the ones who will be tasked with making that determination.
If you guys grant it, we'd have to make that work. It's just that if, you know, Mr. McCall does this now, and then somebody comes, and then we're gonna be another week or two till we can get you all together to have another hearing, it's gonna delay my process. It's gonna keep pushing it further and further down the line. And the next academy class starts mid-July, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we're trying to, it is my goal that for the June council meeting, we are giving that conditional offer. So that means we have to come back to you to certify the list by May, sometime in May, to do that. So once we get everybody through the oral interviews, everybody's gonna get scored, ranked, and as then per the civil service rules, for every position, we have to do 5 backgrounds, so we're gonna do 10 right away. You know, once we get through enough that we're gonna have 10 to present, we're gonna look to bring it back and certify, get the list certified. But backgrounds take time.
Right.
So,
and when do you anticipate the next time we'll be going out for this process?
I have another sergeant that in 2 years is eligible to retire. I don't know if they're gonna drop or if they're gonna retire. So, I mean, myself and my lieutenant are going into the drop at the end of this year. But we're both planning on doing the 5-year drop, so it's gonna be a little bit of time.
Okay.
So barring anything, I would say the next possible date is 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely, some other type of
Right.
change, right, which we can't predict, of course.
And how many applicants do we have that passed the test?
As of right now, we have 39 that are going through the interviews.
So we don't have a shortage or necessarily.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a can of worms that you open up.
So before you go, we can go into deliberations in an executive session. We don't have to deliberate right here, okay?
Okay.
So ultimately, what I'd like to do is at some point, at this point, Chief, do you have any further evidence that you would like to present?
No.
All right. Mr. McCall, before we close that, do you have any questions that you would like to ask the Chief or Mr. Lieutenant Fegley in light of the testimony? Okay. Then what I'd like to do is just to find out, then with Chief, you rest your case, I assume?
Yes.
All right, what we'll do then is we'll close the testimony. We'll ask Mr. McCall if he has any final statements that he would like to make, followed by the Chief if he has any final statements that he would like to make. Neither of you have to make any type of closing, but if you care to do so, this is your opportunity to do that. Mr. McCall, I'll go to you first.
Just want to say thank you guys for your time. Thank you, Chief, for taking the time to be here today, and that's about it.
Thank you very much. Chief, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I'm just gonna, this isn't anything personal, we're on a tight timeline, Mr. McCulsey's a fine gentleman, and I would encourage him to try again the next time that we are testing. That's it.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, what we're going to do is we're going to end this hearing. We're going to go into an executive session where we can deliberate and talk in private about this. We will come back out with presumably with a decision here in a few minutes. All right? So, Mr. McCall, what we're going to do, I'm not sure the best way to handle this.
I thought I could put him in a meeting room, like a waiting
You
room.
can, if you want to start a meeting room, you can put them in a separate room. Alternatively, we can either step out and maybe go over to the library.
Is they using
I think
it?
they're doing that.
Or we can just mute our microphone
We can mute the microphone, just need to make sure it's properly muted.
and turn the.
And then, Mr. McCady, you're gonna have to leave the room, and actually, two of you guys will have to leave the room as well.
Will we need Lieutenant Fegley anymore, do you think? Or he's got his
I
own.
guess I would ask if you have a couple more minutes, just let us, just in case something comes up, subject to recall, just for a few minutes.
Sure.
I don't know that, where this is gonna go, but let me just get a feel for it, and if not, we'll release you right away. Thank you for your testimony.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Very helpful.
Mr. McCall,
Thank you very much. The record here with the stenographer, and we just asked the chief to come back in. So I think we're ready to proceed. I'll turn it back, the meeting back over to the chairman.
Okay, defer to Corey for a motion.
I would make a motion to not make an exception to the physical testing, and certainly would encourage him to try next time.
Okay, all those in favor of that
Is
motion?
there a second?
I'll second.
A second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And again, reiterate, we can appreciate the disappointment in not passing the test, and we do feel for you, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of applicants, and that's a can of worms you can't open. So, but we do encourage you to come out again and to keep pushing forward.
All right, Mr. McCall, thank you very much. That will end the local agency hearing. A written letter explaining that position will be issued to you within the next few days.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Goodbye now. Meeting is adjourned.
So is that a letter you would like me to write to him?
Um,
What,